Morning, church. Pastor Brandon back with you, and today we're going to really inspire you by talking about how your sin affects others. I'm sure it's going to be encouraging to all of us. We're picking up in verse 4 today. After Jonah has been given a command by God, and he's basically told God, nope, not going to do it, and he heads the opposite direction that God tells him. God sends him to Nineveh, and instead he goes down south to Tarshish. And now we're going to see he's on a boat, he's at sea, and then we're going to see how his rejecting God affects those around him. And that's just what I'm defining as sin today, is we reject God and his word in our life. We're sinning. We're missing the mark. We're not doing what God's called us to do. So here's what happens. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. Now, we'll pick up there tomorrow. But what I want you to understand is, first of all, when we sin, now, God is actually causing this storm to arise. And that doesn't translate that every bad thing that happens in your life, God is causing. So don't go there. But in this specific instance, God is trying to get Jonah's attention. And not only that, Jonah rejecting God puts all of these men's lives in danger. So when we sin, there's an old phrase that we hurt those closest to us. Why do we do that? Well, it's simply because they're in close proximity to us. When we hurt others. Jonah's hurting, he's disobeying God, and because of that, it's affecting those in closest proximity to him. He's on the ship, so obviously this storm comes, it affects everybody on the ship. All the sailors were afraid and cried out to their own God. What you need to understand is this is a polytheistic world that Jonah lived in. Now, most people in these worlds, they believe that their gods couldn't extend beyond a certain area. So the fact that they're out in international waters, they're all crying out to their own God, hoping that their God hears them. Okay? And you're going to find out later that Jonah told them who he was and all this, and you're going to find out that he did tell them, or he's going to tell them, that he's a Hebrew, which carries a lot of weight, and we'll talk about that when we get to that. Because they knew immediately when he said that they were in trouble. But here's what I want you to see today, simply that when we sin, when we reject God's word in our lives, it not only affects us, it affects others. And a lot of times we do just like Jonah. What does Jonah do? He's sleeping. He's put it out of his mind. He's staying away from everybody. We isolate ourselves when we sin. We don't want people telling us that we're in the wrong, or we don't want our closest friends pointing out to us our error or our sin. And so we kind of isolate ourselves. One of the first things you're going to notice in your friends' lives who are believers, if they start pulling away from you, there's probably something going on, and you need to start praying for them. Or if you feel yourself pulling away from people, you might want to start revisiting what's going on in my life. Why do I feel the need to pull away from people like Jonah here? And what's affecting others? What am I doing that affects others? And so start thinking about that. I know it's not a very inspiring little verse, but I do want you to know that when we as believers are blatantly rejecting God, that doesn't just affect us. It affects so many others. And so we need to be aware of what we're doing in our lives and how we're listening to God and obeying God. See you tomorrow, church.